Call the meeting to order. Stand for pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Roll call. Calvin Tillman, Mayor here.
Charles Smith, Commissioner here. William Cisco, Commissioner here.
The format for tonight is the folks from the Department of State Health Services are going to be giving a presentation, and then they're going to be answering questions at large for folks who may have some questions. So I'll introduce the staff. And when I introduce the staff, why don't you guys raise your hand and let everybody know who you are. Tina Walker, health educator. Where's Tina?
I'm here.
All right. Tom Ellerby, environmental specialist. And Nancy Ingram, community involvement liaison. And Dr. Bradford will be giving the presentation this evening. You know, I think 5 years ago when we started this, when the compressor site moved in, I think a lot of folks told me that we would never have any success in dealing with this. It's taken up a great deal of my time over the past 5 years, but I am glad to say that I think that the situation has improved greatly, and certainly improved greatly over the last couple of months. The continuous air monitor has been installed, and just about immediately when that monitor was installed, they had one of their famous releases, and some of the folks in the community probably remember that. It was just a few weeks ago. And what the monitor showed us is that they may have been stretching the truth a little bit when they said that all goes straight up to the moon. Because the fact of the matter is, not only did it hang around, it hung around for a long time, and it was in some pretty high levels. Well, since that time, we've cleaned up quite a bit. The situation has improved. I certainly don't want to declare victory, but I think that we're winning, and I thank all of you out there for your support of this group up here and helping us get that. I think that we're definitely moving forward. I think we got a ways to go, but as anything happens, you have one step forward, you get 2 steps back. So this is Amber Smith's water from her well. And the Railroad Commission has been out and taken samples of this, and I'm sure that they'll say it's just fine to drink, just like the Department of State Health Services did. So I asked anybody want to drink. So with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Carrie Bradford, toxicologist for the Texas Department of State Health Services.
Before Dr. Bradford begins her presentation, I'd like to let you know that we provided some cards for you to write questions on during her presentation. Her presentation will be about 20 minutes. That way we'll be able to get them down. After her presentation, we'll take questions. If you'd like to come up to the microphone and let us know your name and where you live, or if you don't want to, you can just leave your question on a card and we'll pick them up and bring them up to Dr. Bradford to be answered. So we appreciate your coming tonight, and Dr. Bradford, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Mayor Tillman, for having me here tonight. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for coming here tonight. As Mayor Tillman said, my name is Dr. Carrie Bradford, and I'm a toxicologist with Texas Department of State Health Services. I received my master's and my PhD in environmental toxicology from Texas Tech University, and I've been with the Department of State Health Services for almost 5 years. We're here tonight to talk to you a little bit about the results from the exposure investigation we conducted in Dish, Texas. The purpose of this investigation was to determine whether people living in the Dish area have higher levels of VOCs in their blood compared to the general United States population, or are the exposures here unusual compared to the general population?
Can you speak louder?
In October 2009, we were initially contacted by Mayor Tillman and by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality regarding concerns about the air quality here in Dish. In November and December of 2009, we reviewed the information in the Dish contractor's air study report, determined that an exposure investigation was warranted, identified funding for an investigation, and conducted a site visit, and obtained approval from the TDSHS Institutional Review Board. The Institutional Review Board ensures that participants' safety, rights, and welfare are protected in these types of investigations. In January 22nd through 24th of 2010, we collected blood, urine, and tap water samples for residents living in and around the Dish area. Samples were sent to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, National Center for Environmental Health in Atlanta, Georgia. Analytical results for the blood, urine, and tap water samples were received in our office in March 2010, and within 2 weeks, we mailed participants their individual test results. The final report was released on May 12, 2010. DSHS contacted 66 residents to ask them to be a part of this investigation. We obtained consent from 29 participants for the investigation, from 29 different residences. One of the goals of this investigation was to try to make the sampling representative of the entire Dish population. To do that, we randomly selected homes to be included in the investigation and asked that one member from each home participate in the investigation. Children were not included in the investigation because there is no national information about the levels of the volatile organic compounds in children, so the data that we would collect, we would not be able to compare it to anything. In addition, since we collected blood samples, we prefer not to perform invasive procedures on children. Another goal of this investigation was that our sampling be representative of exposures people might have when they're in the vicinity of their home. We asked participants to be at their home for the 4 hours preceding biological sampling and collected samples from the participants in their homes. 28 participants provided blood and urine samples. One of our participants was dehydrated, so we could not obtain biological samples from that participant. Tap water samples were collected from 27 residences. 2 of our residents shared a private well, and so we only collected 1 tap water sample from that well. And one of our participants had a whole house water filtration system, so we could not obtain a non-filtered tap water sample. In addition to the blood, urine, and tap water samples, we also conducted an exposure survey to look at other potential exposure sources such as occupational or hobbies and smoking status. This also allowed us to collect information about community members' concerns. Throughout this investigation, community members reported to us concerns about headaches, respiratory problems, itchy and watery eyes, and other allergy-like type symptoms. Residents were also concerned about odors, noise, and the gas well and compression station operations. The 28 blood samples were analyzed for these 33 compounds, and the results for all of these contaminants were compared to a reference value. For this investigation, the reference value was a 95th percentile from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, or NHANES. NHANES is a representative sample of the entire United States population, and the 95th percentile represents a value at which 95% of the people that were tested had a level below.